Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're deconstructing the 4-decade journey of Mark Zuckerberg, from a college coder in a dorm room to, well, one of the key architects of our modern digital world. To really get a sense of the scale here, let's just start with a number. By 2025, his personal net worth hit a staggering $236 billion. Yeah, that made him the second richest person on the entire planet. But honestly, his personal wealth is only part of the story. By the end of that same year, his company, Meta, was on track to own over 1.3 million of these super high-powered GPUs. And you gotta understand, these chips are the literal building blocks of artificial intelligence. So the big question is, how did he do it? How does a psych and computer science major from Harvard actually pull all of this off? Well, let's dive in and trace the key moments, the big problems, and the strategic pivots that really defined his rise to the top. Okay, so it all started with a pretty simple problem back at Harvard. In the early 2000s, there wasn't a unified digital Facebook, a student directory. Seems small, right? But solving that was the spark for everything that came next. So back at Harvard, Zuckerberg was basically a one-man coding machine. He wasn't just going to class, he was constantly building stuff. First there was Course Match, which was really his first attempt at mapping out a social graph, who's connected to who. Then, of course, came the infamous Face Mash. Yeah, it got him in a ton of trouble, but it proved something huge. People are insatiably curious about their peers. And all of this, all these little experiments, they all led right to the launch of the Facebook.com straight from his dorm room. But moving from a dorm room project to a real Silicon Valley company isn't easy. And right away, the company's ownership structure became a huge problem. This led to, well, one of the most famous and, frankly, most brutal founder disputes in the history of tech.
And this table, wow, it just lays it all out. This was his first big power play. To get total control and bring in serious investors, he reincorporated the company in Delaware. Why Delaware? Because their corporate laws are super friendly to founders. And this move, it allowed him to issue a flood of new shares that basically washed away his CFO, Eduardo Savarine's stake, taking it from 34% down to almost zero. It was ruthless, for sure, but it gave him the absolute control he wanted.
All right, let's move on to the next massive challenge. The desktop internet was dying, and the smartphone was taking over everything.
And here's the thing, Facebook was built for the web, for desktops. It just wasn't designed for mobile apps. And this wasn't just some small problem. This was a full-blown existential threat, the kind of thing that could make the company totally irrelevant, practically overnight.
So what did he do? In 2012, he made a huge pivot. He bought Instagram, a tiny mobile-first photo-sharing app, for a cool $1 billion. And back then, everyone thought that price was absolutely insane. And then, just 2 years later, he did it again, but bigger. He doubled down and bought the global messaging giant WhatsApp for a mind-blowing $19 billion. See, he wasn't just buying companies, he was buying up the entire mobile future. And this slide really shows you the strategy here. This wasn't just a shopping spree. The goal was to build what he called a family of apps. The idea was to own every single key part of your mobile social life. Photos, that's Instagram. Messaging, WhatsApp. The main social feed, Facebook. He was basically building an impenetrable moat around his kingdom. But when you build an empire that big, new problems start to crop up. And this next one was a doozy, a massive, massive crisis of public trust.
And it all came to a head with the Cambridge Analytica scandal. This was the breaking point. Suddenly, everyone saw how all that user data could be weaponized. Public trust just shattered, and it forced a very uncomfortable-looking Mark Zuckerberg to go and testify in front of a very angry Congress.
And just look at the price tag on this chart. The consequences were huge. That $5 billion FTC fine for privacy violations, it made earlier settlements, like the one with the Winklevoss twins, look like pocket change. This was a whole new ballgame, a new era of serious regulatory heat. So, by 2021, another huge problem was brewing. The Facebook brand itself was getting, well, old. People started seeing it as a legacy platform, something their parents used.
So, Zuck's pivot here was maybe his most dramatic yet. A total rebrand. Facebook Inc. was out, and Meta was in. He was basically betting the entire company, we're talking tens of billions of dollars, on the idea that the next big thing wasn't another mobile app, but a whole new 3D immersive world, the metaverse.
There was just one problem. Wall Street absolutely hated it. The stock price tanked. So he was forced into another pivot, a really tough one. He called 2023 the year of efficiency, and that meant mass layoffs, the first in the company's history. Now, on the surface, it looked like a massive retreat, but really, it was him clearing the decks for his next big move.
And that ruthless efficiency, it wasn't just about cutting costs. It was about redirecting a mountain of cash and the entire company's focus. It set the stage for what might be his biggest, most successful pivot yet, going all in on the next wave of tech.
So instead of a closed-off metaverse, the new strategy was open-source artificial intelligence. He started releasing these incredibly powerful AI models called Llama. Now, these are the huge brains that power things like ChatGPT. But here's the kicker. He gave them away for free, for anyone to use and build on. And just like that, he turned Llama into an industry standard overnight, taking a direct shot at the closed-off, expensive models from his rivals like Google and OpenAI. And I mean, just look at the numbers on this table. The sheer scale of this ambition it's just staggering. We're talking about a capital investment of up to $72 billion. That's enough to build an AI infrastructure with more raw compute power than many entire countries. It's wild.
And guess what? The strategy worked. Big time. By 2025, the stock price had made this incredible comeback. But even more importantly, he won a massive antitrust lawsuit from the FTC. The government literally tried to break up his company and failed. He had secured the empire.
So the point is this. Through one high-stakes pivot after another, Mark Zuckerberg has completely transformed himself and his company, over and over again. From a social network, to a family of mobile apps, to the metaverse, and now to a dominant force in AI. He's proven he can't be counted out. And that just leaves us with one big question.